You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves flush the Rockets thanks to a 41-point encore from Ant-Man. Final score versus the Rockets, 127-114. What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves POSTCAST episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. Jack Borman with me as always, live from the Target Center. Give him a follow at JRBorman13. Jack, lots to get into from this one, including Anthony Edwards' 41-point encore, plus the rookies making their mark in a huge way tonight. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Game Time. Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, so Wolves coming in versus the Rockets, trying to build off last night's pretty electric win. Great start. Ant 9 quick points in the first quarter. Things got pretty chippy right away. I mean, Dillon Brooks trying to get physical, trying to set the tone with Ant. Unfortunately, though, for him, that kind of only woke up the beast even more, if that was even possible. And it really set the tone for kind of both teams. I mean, this turned into like a heavyweight bout. Both teams throwing haymakers, 15 lead changes, 17 ties, back and forth all night until the Wolves went on a 20-6 run in the final 5.5 minutes or so. Target Center, I mean, you're there, Jack, but for me, watching on TV, the broadcast, Target Center sounded like it was going to explode by the end of this one. Wolves moved to 29-23 on the year. Just big picture, real quick, before we get into all the nuts and bolts, all the fun stuff. Ant coming off 90 points in 2 games. They've won 2 in a row. You still get 4 or 5 at home before a nice long break. The young guys, which we'll talk about, they're starting to heat up. This has been a very hot and cold team, though, all year. Does the past 2 games give you any reason to believe maybe this time it'll be different and they can finally kind of find their rhythm and footing now through the rest of the season? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know, frankly, just with what we've seen from this team. But what I can tell you is that is the best Timberwolves win of the season, without question, in my mind. I mean, that game was an absolute war. I know that people are saying that the NBA is rigged because Luka is a Laker, but if you're going to rig anything, man, give me a Timberwolves and Rockets first round playoff series.
Please.
I would take 7 games of that immediately. That would be better than any drug you could possibly take. That would ascend you to just different levels that no type of
sign us up, man.
Take you.
Sign us up.
But yeah, I mean, the biggest takeaway right off the rip, I mean, you want to poke the bear. You want to go at Naz Reid in his house with that fan base behind him, with every guy on the Timberwolves team ready to eat a bullet for that guy. Man, 98-96 when the Rockets decide to go at Naz Reid with 9:21 left. Over the final 9:21, the Timberwolves won those minutes 31-16.
Ooh.
31-16. Anthony Edwards evened the Rockets 16-16 in that frame. So that was
a turning point.
That was a culmination of just how chippy this game had been back and forth. You had Ant and Dillon Brooks get into it earlier in the second quarter, which was hilarious. And then Dillon Brooks, gets called. I mean, that was like the calmest I've ever seen 2 guys be. I mean, Dillon Brooks just locked Ant's arm and Ant was laughing. They were kind of jawing back and forth a little bit, but it was super under control. And then Dillon Brooks gets called for a flopping tech on the very next play. The crowd's all into it. And then, Ant was just going right at Dillon Brooks the rest of the game. And that kind of hit a pinnacle where Ant gets that crazy and 1 over Dillon Brooks with, what was it here? I don't know, with like 4:27 left. It was an and 1. And Ant's mean mugging Dillon Brooks from the ground. And Dillon Brooks is like as competitive and unrelenting, and I'm not going to give you any props in the middle of a game type of guy, but even he let out kind of a wry smile in that moment. So to just see how competitive these 2 teams were. I mean, Tari Eason, Jade McDaniels went to the same high school, played together in high school, Federal Way, Washington, outside of Seattle. I mean, there's a lot of connections between these 2 teams, and it was Oh man, it was awesome to be here at Target Center tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, man. If you're going to pick one game to go to, Jack, I know you go to a lot of them, but holy smokes, that was the game to see for sure. And I'm with you, man. The entire league, I mean, just fans of basketball, all just said collectively, sign us up for a 7-game series, like you said, between these two teams, because that was just fantastic basketball all night long. And getting to the free throw line, man. The past 2 nights, 18 free throws last night, 15 more tonight. We've been kind of waiting for him to get to the stripe, to kind of elevate that part of his game, it feels like. Is he doing something different? Are the refs just calling the fouls that should have probably been called all along? And I guess, I mean, really more importantly, big picture, can he keep this up? Can he add this into his arsenal and kind of bag of tricks, do you think, from here on out?
Yeah, no question. I mean, he's one of the most physically imposing and strongest and most athletic guys in the NBA. And I think, some of it is the spacing too that we had in this game. The Rockets are a team, they really started, 4 guard / wings in this game with Jalen Green, Tari Eason, Dylan Brooks, and oh my goodness, and Amin Thompson. And so, and then off the bench, you have Cam Whitmore, who's more of a guard, Reed Shepherd, who's a small guard, Jayshawn Tate, who's, an undersized wing. So that unlocked a lot of, lineups where Ant was playing the 4 or Jaylen Clark was playing the 4, which we've seen, more so throughout the last week, where you really have, an opportunity to play 5 out if Nas is the center there. And I think that has helped unlock getting Ant going downhill, especially late in the, first quarter, third quarter. And then he just continued that downhill aggression really for the entire game. I mean, Anthony Edwards has had 4 career games of 14 made free throws. He's had 2 of them in the last 27 hours.
Yeah.
So
unbelievable.
I mean, it's definitely a turning point. I think we talk about Anthony Edwards, having these leaps in between seasons and it coming, but it really ends up happening almost every year without feel like in the middle of the year, he takes some ginormous leap. And I feel like we may be witnessing it now. And just with him starting to get to the free throw line in a super meaningful way. And I think the other thing to note about this is it's not like he's completely abandoned the 3-point shot either. I mean, he took 15 free throws tonight. So, I mean, a free throw rate of 60, what is this, 60%? 15 divided by 25, 60%. And then, you have him taking 12 of his 25 shots were threes. I mean, it's a perfect shot mix for Ant. I mean, it was unfortunate that he only shot, what did he shoot? 6 of 13 from 2. But I mean, there were probably other times where he got fouled and it didn't get called that he's missing some of these layups. So I think Ant's just got a perfect shot mix going right now. And he's really finding a way to kind of start it with some jump shooting. And then once the defense is really pushed out to him, then just really getting downhill and just kind of where it's kind of like, and you're setting up with play action early in the game and kind of doing the inverse of what you think you might do, setting them up with play action, then throughout the game, just really wearing them down, hitting them on the ground. So Ant's got it all working right now. And for him to, 90 points in the last 27 hours, 41 points in this game, I don't think there's enough good words to say about what Ant did. And to just, totally, this game had 15 lead changes, 17 ties, and Houston led for 31 of the 48 minutes in this game. And it felt like in the third quarter, every single time the Wolves got it to within one possession, Houston would make a 3 and it would go right back to 4 or 5. And the way that, all these guys just rode the momentum that Anthony Edwards created. He just creates a tidal wave of momentum when he gets it going. And you can tell he's got that look in his eyes. He starts trying to make plays defensively. He wants to block everything at the rim. He wants to make big, important steals. He gets down in his stance. He's super aggressive. And then it just totally gets everyone else in the arena going. And that certainly starts with his teammates. And that's exactly what happened. And for him to just carry it forward in the fourth quarter. I mean, I've sat in this chair on this show talking several times this year about it. Anthony Edwards has been unbelievable, super aggressive in the third quarter and hasn't carried it into the fourth quarter. But for him tonight to outscore the Rockets for almost all of this fourth quarter, despite not playing the first 4 or 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, had 16 of his 41 in the fourth, 6 of 8 from the floor, made 3 of his 4 threes, and had only 1 turnover despite having the ball in his hands for pretty much the entire time that he was out there. It's pretty impressive. And one last thing before we get to our first break here.
Yeah.
I think that that Ant getting, downhill in the second half of this game really set an amazing tone. I know he had like 8 free throws in the first quarter, but I thought the way that he just relentlessly attacked the rim in the second half was so important. And the Wolves got spanked in the paint in the first half of this game. It was 38-20 Rockets at halftime in the paint. They were getting run off the floor in transition, and they were getting dominated in the paint. The Wolves only shot 10 of 23, 43% in the paint, while Houston shot 19 of 30 in the paint. That's a good mark to have for like an entire game. But if Minnesota turned around in the second half, won 34-12 in the paint, and ended up winning 54-50 in the paint in this game. So I think that the tone shift that Anthony Edwards led by getting downhill, scoring inside, getting to the free throw line was super important. Obviously 18 offensive rebounds for 26 second chance points, helps that a lot. But to hold Houston to just 6 of 14 shooting in the paint in the second half after what they did in the first half was pretty impressive, considering, they've got super athletes everywhere and a rugged finisher in Brooks. And then, just a tank in Şengün, who dominated this team in the paint in their last couple of matchups. Says a lot about what Ant did for this team in the second half.
Yeah, well said there. Let's go just an extra minute or two before our first break. What else did you love about this one? Team stats, specific play sequences. Finch takes a lot of heat in the chat every game after every loss. Did you like anything special that Finch did there tonight as well? We'll talk about the young guys here next segment, but different lineups Finch rolled out. What else stuck out to you the most, or what else did you love about this game?
Yeah,
for the
I thought
Wolves' perspective.
This was the best coached game of Chris Finch's season, no question about it. I thought that he managed the rotation super well. I think pressing the Terrence Shannon Jr. button when Jaden McDaniels got into foul trouble was something that nobody was expecting. And TSJ pays it off by hitting a 3 on the first possession, banged out on a couple of Rockets to close the half, which was huge. And the way that he just got into, a lot of different super creative lineups, got Rob paired with Rudy Moore. Nah and Jaylen has been a pairing that he's really gone to that's been tremendous. And then, getting all those long and strong guards that defend like madmen on the perimeter with Ant and Nas has been really fun to watch over the last couple of games, just to give Ant more spacing. And so I thought the way that he did that, and then the way that he managed the fourth quarter rotation was awesome. He didn't close with Rudy Gobert in this game. He just let it ride with Nas. But the way that he was, he bought time for Mike Conley to get a breather before he comes back in and has 5 big points and a couple of assists late in the game was huge. And then the way that he just, again, trusted Jaylen Clark in a big spot in the fourth quarter, like he did last night, was tremendous. And then the other thing that shouldn't go unnoticed, I don't think Jaden McDaniels sat down in the second half at all.
Wow.
So, trusting Jaden to just go out there and raise hell defensively was awesome too. So Finchy deserves a ton of credit tonight.
Love that. Plenty more deep dive from this one, including the rookies go for a ride. Shannon, Dilly, and the Jaylen Clark game. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance at a huge return, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 bet. Why I love FanDuel? When you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play, all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. They got Super Bowl 59 action, and FanDuel's got endless possibilities. Go check that out. Check out some NBA future action while you're there, too. Naz Reid, 6 Men of the Year odds, still sitting at 6-1. It's all sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, man, we finally got to see the debut of my guy, Terrence Shannon Jr. And Jack, dude, it was everything I could have ever dreamed for and more. Hits his first three-point shot attempt of his career in the corner. Crowd's going nuts. Couple minutes later, puts down a poster slam, got the entire bench on their feet. They were going bananas. 7 minutes, I know, small sample, 7 minutes, but he made a splash. 5 points, 2 for 4, throwing an assist. We'll touch on Clark and Dillingham here in a second, too, because they both had some great moments, obviously, but just start with TSJ. I've wanted to see him on the floor for so long. I loved him at Illinois. I was so jacked up when the Wolves drafted him and he fell right in their lap. What did you like about his debut? And I guess what can he add to this bench in the second half of the season?
Yeah, the second I saw him get up from the bench, I thought of you and texted you just
text me right away,
with
baby.
Like 5 exclamation points right away. Yeah, I just love how aggressive he is.
Yeah.
I don't know if the rim, if his girl cheated on the rim with it or cheated on him with the rim or something.
He's angry.
Because every single time he gets the ball in his hands, he just looks like he wants to just destroy the rim. And you saw that, late in the first half. But to be called into that spot, your first ever rotation minutes, your first ever really real NBA possession, the ball comes to you in a corner and you make a huge three. That speaks volumes to how ready Terrence Shannon Jr. has been after, just everything that he's been through this year with injuries, being down in Iowa, being up here on the road, not really playing. When he does get in, it's very late in the game with little time. We don't really know what his role has been in practice. So I just think, to see Jaylen Clark do that when he was called into service a couple of weeks ago for the first time, really, and now stick in the rotation ever since then. And then to see Terrence Shannon Jr. do it, I think just speaks volumes about the culture of this team, that what they're doing in practice and the Stay in Shape League and the player development coaches have these guys ready to go. They do everything they can, and then the players themselves have the confidence to go in and be ready to go and play really hard. And I think Terrence Shannon is overflowing with confidence.
You love it.
I mean, you saw it with just how dominant he's been in the G League in the games that he has played. So again, he's a guy who absolutely filled it up at Illinois, mega big time scorer, and certainly can do that here in the NBA. And I think the other part of it too, that we'll see if Shannon does end up getting more rotation minutes is he's a force in transition. He wants to get out and run whenever he can. I know Tim Connolly said that was a focus for them on the offseason, trying to add more guys that can really be impactful in transition. And he's certainly one of them. We saw that in Summer League. We saw that in the preseason. And that's something that if he does end up playing, I hope we continue to see, because, again, it's just more space for him to get going downhill. And he's super physical, super strong, likes to get into the chest of the defense and then finish inside and draw contact as well. So super physical player. I love what we saw tonight again. A lot of words for only 7 minutes of Terrence Shannon Jr. But again, he had 5 very, very loud points and looked really comfortable in what was a really tough spot coming in for Jaden McDaniels, who picked up his 3rd foul in that second quarter.
I love that you brought up the culture, though, too, because when all these young guys have succeeded, they show the shot of the bench, and whether it's Ant flexing, just giving him that little extra nod, or the entire bench, all the veterans, right? Nobody wants it more than their teammates, and you just love to see that. And you can assume that every team's like that, but I'm not sure it's always like that, to be totally honest. But that just has to give them that extra bit of confidence, which, again, I just love to see for these young guys. And as good as he was in those 7 minutes, he was trumped by what we've got a dub now, the Jaylen Clark game. 19 minutes, 17 points, some money shots from 3, goes 4 for 6 from deep, 3 boards, throwing an assist on top of that. I know he had a -8 plus-minus, but I don't know. I saw what I saw. My eyes don't lie. I mean, how fun was not only he tonight, but how fun has he been to just add to the mix? And where does he fit best, too, into the rotations? 19 minutes, that feels like a career high. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but, people are already asking in the chat, what happens when DDV comes back as well? What do you think of all this stuff, Jack?
I've got to put my right hand up, issue an apology. I said either last night or 2 games ago that if Jaylen Clark is leading the team and scoring off the bench, that it may not bode well for you. And boy, was I wrong. And I'm so glad to be wrong, because Jaylen Clark was awesome in this game. I had in my notes, I mean, you see it here. I have 8 bullet points of just awesome things that Jaylen Clark did throughout this game. But I think there was nothing more impactful than, it was just a total slog in the third quarter where things started to get really physical. Both teams couldn't throw it in the side, couldn't throw it in the ocean, couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And for Rob Dillingham to come in and get, 3 scores in a row, and then Jaylen Clark to feed off of that and be shot ready and make 2 straight corner threes was absolutely huge. And I think for him, his confidence has only grown as he's played more and more and gotten more comfortable, especially playing in these lineups where, there's opportunities for him to shoot the ball. And there's going to be a lot of defensive attention to guys like Anthony Edwards and Naz Reid and even Jaden McDaniels to a certain extent with those when those guys play together. So I think for him, he's shown a very strong competency in being able to play off the catch and cut from the corners. That's something that's been really impactful. And two, playing off the catch in the slot and getting to the free throw line, finishing inside has been fun to see. And then also too, but just, if he makes a shot or makes a good play, he doesn't then feel like he needs to do the same thing if he gets the ball in the same spot. Like if he makes a corner three, he doesn't feel like he needs to get it up if the right play is to pump fake and put the ball on the deck and then, dump it off to a teammate, make a corner, make a kick out pass or try to shoot and finish inside. I think he's just reading the defense really well, making smart reads and just playing within himself really well. And he looks like a guy who's been playing in the league for 10 years for crying out loud.
Man.
And for him to be doing this really in what is his rookie year after missing all of last season with a torn Achilles has been a ton of fun to watch. And I think the one play that stood out to me that may not stand out to other people in the fourth quarter, he was trailing behind the play defensively, and then the Wolves get a quick stop, and Jaden McDaniels throws him, a touchdown pass. He smokes a layup, gets an offensive rebound, misses another layup, gets another offensive rebound. And instead of just continually trying to go up with it, he peels it back out, gets a second possession, gets another opportunity, and then, kicks it out. The Wolves miss a 3, and then he gets another offensive rebound on that same possession. And then that results in the ant and one over Dylan Brooks with 4:27 left. That made it a 3-point game for the Wolves, or a 3-point lead for the Wolves. The free throw made it a 4-point lead, and the game never got that close again. So a really unsung moment that I think just showed a lot of poise when a lot of people in his position as a young player really might kind of freeze up and not know what to do. It was just, you're giving out player grades. I would give an A with like 14 pluses for Jaylen Clark in this game with career highs across the board.
Boy, all of a sudden, the future just feels awfully encouraging after tonight, doesn't it? Again, 1 game sample size. Let's not be prisoners of the moment, but man, just seeing all those rookies ball out the way they did was just awfully encouraging. That's for sure. Go ahead.
And really quick, just to answer your question, like what happens when Dante DiVincenzo comes back? I have no idea. That's a tough thing.
Good problem to have.
Chris Finch to try to figure it out. Mike Conley's certainly going to play less. I think that is fair. He was tremendous tonight, by the way, 16 and 5, 6 of 8, made all 4 of his threes. But I think, certainly you're going to see the Timberwolves go to more guard-centric lineups, especially if he comes back before Julius Randle does. I think you're going to see a lot more of those 4-guard type of lineups around Rudy and Naz. So we'll see what happens, but it's going to be a tough rotation puzzle to put together for Chris Finch. But I think the good thing is that, if some guy's really not having a good night or gets in foul trouble, or God forbid, there's another injury, you feel pretty confident in the group that you got. Yeah,
it's a good problem to have. And again, we see it every year as the season goes on. It's a long season. It's a gauntlet. Guys will continue to just get dinged up. Granted, last year, outside of the cat injury, the Wolves had great, knock on wood, injury luck. But eventually, just dings, bumps, bruises, stuff like that. It's nice to have the bench to give guys a game or two off when needed. That's for sure. A couple minutes left. Let's talk about the Portland game Saturday night, plus a quiet trade deadline for the Wolves. We'll get Jack's take on that as well. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode also brought to us by BetterHelp. When your schedule, it gets packed with work projects and more, it's so easy to let your priorities start to slip, even when we know what makes us happy. But when you feel like you got no time for yourself, Non-negotiables like therapy, they're more important than ever. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, maybe it's time to give BetterHelp a try. Entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. So simple. All you got to do, you fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched up with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Go visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today. You're getting 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, before we talk Portland, despite all the rumors, ends up being a very quiet trade deadline for the Wolves. They were one of only 4 teams that didn't end up making one single move. Knee-jerk reaction, disappointed? Are you fine with it? Biggest area of need, maybe you were bummed they didn't make a move for. The KD rumor, I know you texted me the tweet, I should say, earlier afternoon. Just thoughts on, a kind of a lackluster trade deadline for the Wolves. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll start there with the trade deadline. Nothing happening. Hey, look, I think we've kind of said it the last couple of shows that like there's been enough there on enough meat on the bone for the Wolves to see like, hey, this team is trending in the right direction. Like Dante DiVincenzo looked awesome before he got hurt and was probably the Timberwolves' second best player and was just shooting the leather off the ball before he got hurt. And then Randall really started to find his groove as kind of a secondary playmaker and really even like a tertiary scorer behind, Ant and Nas and kind of learned how to, get Jayden more involved and get Nas more involved in different moments. So I think, and they kind of started to solidify more of the rotation with the Nas and Julius front court, how to figure out the, how you're, doling out the minutes between Nas and Rudy and Julius and Rudy and Nas and Julius. And, there's been enough there to see like this team can be really solid. And they're a top half of the league team now. And both offense and defense, that was something that they did not do last year. And, I just understand it. I think, this front office just did not want to salary dump Rudy or Julius Randle to get under the second apron. Even if that may cost them a buyout guy, like they just feel confident in what they have. And that's totally fine with me. I thought that, there was some smoke around, maybe flipping Nickeil Alexander-Walker for, a first round pick or some more size on the interior, but just with his contract being what it is and the Wolves not being able to take back more than they send out, the math was just really difficult. And so, I think Nickeil too has been one of the most consistent players for this team all year long, is always going to give you 150% every single night. And that's something too, that's not easy to let walk out the door. So, again, I have zero problem with the Timberwolves not making a move. Totally understand why they did it. I would not be surprised if they do try to add some size in the buyout market, just considering that if, Rudy or Nas or Julius get hurt, like the Luka Garza minutes just have not been, really palatable or sustainable for this team. And then, the Kevin Durant rumor I thought was really, kind of came out of left field just because, the Wolves are over the second apron, and in order to trade for Kevin Durant, they would have had to salary dump Julius Randle to get under the second apron and take or send out at least, $16.5 million more than they're taking back, which is really difficult to swing at the trade deadline, just with the trade rules in today's NBA. And they would have probably had to trade Jayden and Nas and Mike Conley to get Kevin Durant. So I really don't think that the significance of that news was that they tried to make a play for Kevin Durant at this year's trade deadline. But what I think those leaks came out for, and it was important that John Krasinski of The Athletic and Sam Amick of The Athletic reported that their sources inside the Timberwolves building believe that Kevin Durant would be open to coming to Minnesota and play with Anthony Edwards, a guy with whom he has a very close relationship that they've developed, through playing each other in the playoffs last year, and then also playing for Team USA. KD was Ant's favorite player growing up, and Ant has said that KD is his GOAT several times. So I think that's going to be something more to follow this summer, especially if we get some news tomorrow that Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry are going to be the new, Timberwolves, majority partners here. That news, again, we'll get an ownership arbitration decision either tomorrow or on Monday. The deadline is on Monday. So I don't think that it comes necessarily as a surprise that, hey, we want to try to make a move to go get Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's reportedly, maybe interested in coming to Minnesota, or at least would be open to it. And, oh, hey, we may have new owners that, are coming in and want to make a somewhat of a splash. And you could say, well, that's ironic considering what Matt Ishbia did, trading all those picks for Kevin Durant. It hasn't worked out in Phoenix, but, who knows? And Rudy Gobert also becomes trade eligible over the summer. And the Wolves would be under the second apron. It'd be much easier to swing a trade in the summer. So, and then you also could potentially trade Julius Randle if he opts in. So, so that was super, super significant news today. Not necessarily for right now, but for certainly this summer.
Absolutely. Final game versus Portland on the year up next this Saturday night. Blazers up 2-1 on the season series now versus the Wolves. They've won the last two in a row. Granted, that was all the way back, November 12th, November 13th on a back-to-back. I remember. What sticks out from those two losses that needs to be corrected, or has so much changed from then to now? You feel much better about this matchup this time around?
Yeah, I think you can kind of throw those games in the spam folder at this stage. But, I mean, Portland's certainly a different team now than they were then. I mean, Portland's won 9 of their last 10 games, which has been pretty eye-opening for teams around the league. They thought, were thought to be a team that would be tanking, but now could try to make a push for the play-in tournament. DeAndre Ayton's been averaging like 20 and 12 over the last 10 games. Anthony Simons, Denny Avdia, Scoot Henderson, all guys that are playing, very, very well. Scoot's been scoring efficiently and taking care of the ball, kind of showing, his most consistent flashes of his young NBA career after getting drafted behind Victor Wembanyama, third, last year. But I mean, this is the number 1 defense in the league over the last 5 games, number 2 net rating team in the league. And they've been absolutely killing teams in the paint, in the fast break, in the points off turnover differential. They've been dominating teams as well. So the Wolves are going to, they can't relax, because we saw what happened the last time they played Portland. Maybe didn't take those games seriously enough. Hadn't really integrated Julius Randle or Dante DiVincenzo enough yet. But I think that the Timberwolves will take this game a little bit more seriously. And it's also Naz Reid bobblehead night at Target Center on Saturday night. So I think there'll be a ton of juice in the building. Should be another really fun game if it's anything even remotely close to what we got tonight, which was just a banger of a game at Target Center. I had so much fun. I think that probably shined through with how enthusiastic I was tonight. But man, can't wait to do it again on Saturday.
Absolutely. I got to throw this up real quick because this is from our guy, Random Planet. He's been with us, Jack, from day one on this show. He has been one of our biggest fans and supporters. To see this awful news, he lost his brother last night. First off, thoughts and prayers, condolences go out to him and his family. We're glad the Wolves could give you even the smallest fraction of relief tonight like they did. And again, from all the Locked On family, thoughts go out to you and the fam. Our condolences on the tough time you're going through. Jack, T-Wolves deliver the knockout blow to the Rockets. They've won 2 in a row. Final score, 127-114, 29-23, 6 games above 500 now. As always, huge shout-out to all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and please go follow Jack on X at JRBorman13. He's live from the Target Center during almost every home game. Again, Portland up next, Saturday night, 7 p.m. tip-off. Catch you right here. Same time, same place. But until then,